The Galactic Council's security checkpoint hummed with the usual anxiety that permeated Station Zenith 7. Dozens of species shuffled through scanners, their appendages, tentacles, and various limbs held out for inspection. The air recyclers worked overtime to accommodate the diverse atmospheric requirements, creating a symphony of hisses and mechanical whirs. Then Mark walked in. The human strolled through the entrance with the casual confidence of someone who had long since stopped caring about making an impression. But it wasn't Mark that caused every security officer to freeze mid-scan. It was the two creatures perched on his shoulders. Blaze. The larger of the two sat on Mark's right shoulder, his golden eyes surveying the room with the predatory focus that made his species, the Kreth, the most feared hunters in 3 sectors. His sibling, smaller but no less intimidating, occupied the left shoulder, tiny claws gripping the fabric of Mark's jacket. Both cubs couldn't have been more than 6 months old by Kreth standards, but their teeth were already visible, sharp as molecular blades. The security station fell silent. "Next," called out Officer Zelthrin, a Vaxian whose 4 eyes blinked in asynchronous patterns when stressed. All 4 eyes were currently blinking rapidly. Mark approached the scanner and Blaze let out a small chirp that sounded disturbingly like a purr mixed with a growl. The sound made Zelthrin's scales ripple in involuntary fear response. "Identification," Zelthrin managed, his translator struggling to keep his voice steady. Mark produced his credentials with one hand while his other gently scratched behind Blaze's ear. The cub leaned into the touch and several security officers reached for their weapons. "Mark Richardson, human registered xenobiologist and diplomat," Zelthrin read aloud, his eyes scanning the holographic display. Then he looked up at the cubs. "And, are they cleared?" "They're with me," Mark said simply. "That's not..." Zelthrin's translator cut off as he searched for words. "Sir, those are Kreth juveniles. Predator classification Alpha Plus. They're not cleared for station entry without proper authorization," Mark finished, pulling out another data chip. "Which I have. They're under my care as part of the Human Kreth Cultural Exchange Program." Zelthrin inserted the chip with a trembling appendage. His eyes widened as he read. "This says you've been caring for them for 4 months. On your ship, alone." "Not alone," Mark corrected, grinning. "I had Blaze and Ember here." The smaller cub, apparently named Ember, responded to her name by yawning, displaying a mouth full of needle-sharp teeth. 2 guards visibly stepped backward. "Humans," Zelthrin muttered, a phrase that had become something of a universal expletive across the galaxy. "Do you understand what you're carrying?" Kreth adults have wiped out entire colonies. Their hunting instinct is genetically hardwired. They cannot be domesticated, trained, or... "Sit," Mark said quietly. Both cubs immediately shifted their positions, sitting upright on his shoulders with perfect posture, tails curled around his neck for balance. The security checkpoint had gone completely silent. Every being present watched with morbid fascination. "How?" Zelthrin whispered. Mark shrugged, which made both cubs adjust their balance with practiced ease. "Same way humans have done it for thousands of years. Patience, food, trust, and understanding that respect goes both ways." He looked at Blaze, whose golden eyes met his with unmistakable intelligence. "The galaxy sees predators. I see scared kids who lost their pack to a mining accident. The Kreth government authorized this?" Another security officer asked, his translator barely masking his disbelief. "They were skeptical at first," Mark admitted. "Turns out humans have experience with apex predators. We've been living alongside them on Earth since before we had fire. Wolves, big cats, bears. We have this weird habit of looking at things that can kill us and thinking, I bet we could be friends." Blaze chirped again and nuzzled against Mark's cheek. The gesture was so unexpectedly gentle that several officers exchanged confused glances. "The clearance checks out," Zelthrin finally said, though his scales continued their nervous rippling. "But I'm required to assign you an escort through the station. For general safety." "Whose safety?" Mark asked with a knowing smile. "Mine or everyone else's?" "Yes," Zelthrin replied honestly. As they moved through the checkpoint, Mark noticed the crowd that had gathered. Species from across the galaxy stared at the impossible sight. A human carrying 2 juvenile apex predators like they were house pets. An elderly Thraxian approached, her antennae quivering. "Human, I must know, are you not afraid?" Mark considered the question seriously. "Every parent is afraid," he said finally. "Afraid they'll mess up, afraid they won't be enough. But fear doesn't mean you stop trying. He glanced at Ember, who had started dozing on his shoulder. These two chose to trust me when their world fell apart. The least I can do is trust them back. But they're predators, the Thraxian insisted. So am I, Mark replied softly. Humans didn't get to the top of Earth's food chain by being herbivores. We're pack hunters, endurance predators, tool users. The only difference is we decided to use those instincts to protect instead of just hunt. He gently stroked Blaze's head. Maybe these two will learn to do the same. Blaze and Ember had fallen asleep by the time they reached the diplomatic quarters, their tiny bodies vibrating with soft purrs. Mark carefully removed them from his shoulders and placed them in their specially designed nest, covering them with a thermal blanket. The escort guard watched in amazement. The council will want a full report on your methods. Tell them it's simple, Mark said, watching the cubs sleep. You treat them like they matter, like they're more than just what their teeth and claws can do. He turned to face the guard. Humans learned a long time ago that the scariest monsters make the best friends, if you're brave enough to reach out your hand first. As Mark settled in for the night, Blaze's eyes opened briefly, meeting his across the room. In that moment, there was no predator and prey, no human and alien, just two souls who had chosen each other against all odds. The galaxy would call it madness. Humans called it hope.